teams have. But, they're still going to be there close towards the end. They're still going to be right there around that 8th, 9th, 10th spot, I believe, in the Western Conference.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, like I said, low expectations for Memphis coming into the season, so super impressed with what they've done so far. Moving on to the Miami Heat, man, I tell you what, when they lost to Dragon at point guard, I thought that their season was over. They put Justin Winslow as their starting point guard, and things could not have been better. I think moving him to the point guard position was a great idea by the Miami Heat and Eric Spoelstra. You're still getting little flashes of the Dwayne Wade of old as he continues his one last dance tour. They just got back Dion Waiters. You and I talked about how disappointed we've been so far at the sign Whiteside. But even with Whiteside not being a dominant force, this team has been really impressive with the brand of basketball they've played and being able to be in the position that they're in. So I had no problem giving the Miami Heat a B.
Yeah, I believe I'm with you right there as well. I got you a B. They're one of those teams that you just look at and you know that, like you said, you get them back from. You got Dwayne Wade, of course, one of my all-time favorite players ever in the NBA. Justice Winslow, you mentioned it at the point. I mean, it's working out great. You wouldn't think so, just looking at the guy, but
yeah, I didn't think I was going to work at all.
Right, I was like, no way, this is not going to work at all. But they're still one of those teams in the Eastern Conference that night in and night out, they're going to fight everybody tooth and nails. And they're not giving anybody anything. You got to come in there and you got to take whatever you're going to take from them. Hassan Whiteside, step your game up. If he steps his game up and starts playing better, I definitely think they're one of those teams in the Eastern Conference that could be surprising a lot of people late in the season.
Yeah, I just feel like when they lost Dragic, everybody just wrote them off and thought that their season was over, and they just kind of reinvented themselves and been doing well. Look at the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, come on. Giannis Antetokounmpo, my first time saying it on the show.
Hey.
This guy is, man, he's just a beast. He is a monster. I gave this team an A+. I mean, you're talking about him. You're talking about also having Middleton on that team still. Just the way that Budenholzer has gotten these guys to gel together so quickly, and to think about they've only made a couple of changes in that team from what was last year with Jason Kidd shows you how much coaching matters in the NBA, but also how much improvement a lot of the players on their roster have made as well. So I have the Milwaukee Bucks coming in at the A+.
Oh, 100% A+. I mean, you look at that team, no one thought that team was going to be top 1, top 2 in the Eastern Conference. I mean, we knew that they were going to be good. They got Giannis. You got to be, that guy's just enough right there.
Indeed.
But you talked about Middleton, but man, Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, former Rookie of the Year.
Yep. I mean, that guy is balling right now. And Brook Lopez out there hitting three-pointers, like, what? I mean, granted, I know that he's a good three-point shooter, but you see that guy and you're like, what are you doing there? Every time you see it. Even though I know that he can knock it down when he's open, every time I see it, I'm like, no, you're not going to, oh, you made it. Oh, okay. It's just so funny seeing that guy out there.
Yeah, 7-footer with range.
Exactly. And not a 7-foot, I mean, a big 7-footer. He's a big boy. But, no, it's really fun to see that team and to see, where they came from and how they're, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. And Giannis is still my MVP.
Yeah, we disagree there.
That's just me, but he's still my MVP because I don't think that if he was on that team, I don't think that they would be a top team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they do got some talent, and they would do well, but they would be maybe bottom 8.
I'd agree with that. Fight for the 8th spot.
He keeps them, man. He keeps them. But I was watching some of the moves that he was making the other day, and it's just sick. I mean, there's times where he goes down the court, and I think he goes the entire length of the court, and he dribbled the ball 3 times. Just watching it, it's crazy to see it actually happen. So, but definitely the Bucks, A+. I'm with you 100%.
Moving on to Minnesota, you got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, of course, moved Jimmy Butler. We talked about it on last show, getting rid of their general manager and coach, Tom Thibodeau. I give the Minnesota Timberwolves a C-. Not a lot to say about that team. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Karl Anthony Towns night in and night out. We've talked at length about Andrew Wiggins. So I have the Minnesota Timberwolves coming in at C-.
Okay, I'm a little bit. I got him a C+. I gave him a C+, one, because, like you said, they just fired a coach. They should have, I guess they shouldn't have kept Jimmy Butler, but I mean, Jimmy Butler going, I mean, we clearly see what happened with that. But they finished 8th in the Western Conference last year, so they made the playoffs last year. They're one of those teams that I expected to be within that range. Right now, they're definitely not. But they can pull it together. Derrick Rose, man, Derrick Rose is playing like
comeback
Rose.
player of the year right there, bro.
If you don't think so, then you know what I mean. You call me, talk to me, because we can debate and I'll prove you wrong. Just seeing what that guy's done this year, 50-point game. He's been balling, and he's one of the reasons why they've kind of come back. So we'll see what happens. I expected them to be much higher with the talent that they have, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Coming in next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, and I have the New Orleans Pelicans at a C. Of course, Anthony Davis said before the season started he feels he's the best player in the NBA. You take a look at some of the statistics he has and the games he's had so far this season. Hard to argue him not having confidence in saying that. Julius Randle proving daily that the Lakers probably made a mistake letting him go. But still, even with that said, take a look at their record. I mean, it's a fight a lot of nights for these guys to get W's. So I have New Orleans Pelicans with a C.
Yeah, I mean, that team, I've got them as a D. You look at a team that was sixth. They were sixth in the Western Conference last year, 48-34. They got Anthony Davis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on for these guys. And Drew Holiday, the way he's been playing. I mean, trust me, I watched that game last night. Holiday was knocking down jump shot after jump shot after jump shot. He was not scared, and Davis is doing the same thing. And you mentioned Randall. I mean, that was a pickup right there.
Absolutely.
I mean, clearly, he's not Boogie Cousins.
No, he's not.
They had Boogie Cousins. Now they don't, but they got Randall. But Randall is a guy that, he's fun to watch because he's like a bull, man. He puts his head down, and I watched it a couple times last night. He puts his head down, and he finds that soft spot in the defense, and he attacks it. So, watching them last night and seeing the potential that they have, of course, is why I gave them a D, because there's no way that they're that far down in the Western Conference and they have that kind of talent on that roster.
I can respect that. Moving on to the New York Knicks. A different type of Knicks team. I've talked about it a couple times in past shows how they were just a lovable losing Knicks. They always lost games, not really competitive. Oh, they're going to get the number one draft pick. Well, David Fitz has come in there, and Coach Fitz has them playing hard. I mean, yes, they don't have a lot of wins, but when you watch them play, it's a different amount of effort and a different type of team you see this season compared to Knicks teams of the past. So I have the New York Knicks coming in with a C+. Kevin Knox is definitely one of the players to watch out for, the rookie out of the University of Kentucky. Also, Alonzo Trier is showing that he might be one of those viable pieces. And then remember, all this happening without Porzingis, without him playing at all this season, and with them potentially not having him the whole season at all. So you definitely have some building blocks, some positives there. I know it doesn't equate to wins, but if I'm a Knicks fan, I kind of like the way things are moving.
Oh, absolutely. Tim Hardaway Jr., another guy that's been
almost 20 points a game,
lately. Yeah. Missing Porzingis is a big thing for the Knicks. I've got him as a D+. They're in each game. I mean, just looking at the last few games, they lost to the 76ers by 3 points. Most of the time they're within 10 points. They're not getting blown out by 20 or 30 points in any given night. But we just haven't seen what that team, can really do. Kevin Knox, you mentioned it, is a guy that, exciting to watch. I mean, that guy, the energy that he brings when he comes on the court is unbelievable. So definitely not really blowing anybody's socks off, but they're right there. I mean, like I said, so I'm going to stick with my D+ on that one.
Oklahoma City Thunder. Everybody thought that Paul George was a done deal to go to the Lakers. He decided to pull the fast one on everyone and stick with OKC, team up with Russell Westbrook, who's having a horrific year from the three-point line. But you take a look at what Paul George is doing offensively. Take a look at what Paul George is doing on the defensive end. Definitely, in my opinion, top 2 contender for Defensive Player of the Year. I have the OKC Thunder at an A-. I'm really liking what I see from them. Dennis Schroeder accepting the backup point guard role and doing really well at that. And then Steven Adams just being Steven Adams, who he is, which is a wrecking ball who takes no BS from anyone. So I got OKC as A-.
Yeah, I have them as a B. We're about right on the same thing. I thought they would have been a little bit better. They've been struggling as of late. You talked about Russell Westbrook and his shooting, but he's still almost, he's still coming in with almost a triple-double every single night. I mean, it's crazy to think that he can still do that. I mean, you look at a guy, he's averaging 10 rebounds a game, He's averaging 21 points, almost 22 points a game. So he's clear, and he's actually averaging 10.6 assists a game. So pretty much he's averaging a triple-double for the year.
Yeah, again,
it's unheard of. But yeah, man, you talked about that team. Dennis Schroeder was a big pickup for them, like you said.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about how that relationship was going to work between him and Westbrook, and I haven't heard one peep about any kind of issues between those two.
Exactly, and Paul George has been playing out of his mind. I mean, I mean, if he keeps playing that well and the team can, win some more games, I mean, clearly he should be in the running for MVP, if you ask me, over Westbrook, because obviously Westbrook, yeah, he's averaging a triple double, but he's not putting up the points or anything else that Paul George is, and Paul George is hitting a lot of the the big time game shots as well this year. So it's good to see Paul George being Paul George. And I like the fact that he stayed in Oklahoma City so he could figure out what him and Westbrook could do.
Yeah, definitely respect for that. Moving on down to Florida, the Orlando Magic, a team that I had zero expectations for, but I have been really impressed with what I've seen. I mean, obviously we talk about it a lot in sports. When you're in your contract year, people's level of play all of a sudden miraculously increases. That's nothing to do with their money they might be making, of course, for the love of the game. Or so we think, wink, wink. But yeah, you're talking about career years so far from Terrence Ross. You also have Nikolai Vucevic, who plays for Orlando Magic as well, having a really good season. So for me, I gave Orlando a B. I had low expectations for this team. I thought they'd be one of the bottom feeders of the East. They are fighting for a playoff spot. Now, if they make the playoffs, are they going to win a series? Probably not. Be a good learning experience for their young players. But I give Orlando a B.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm pretty much on spot with you. I believe I got a B minus. You mentioned Vucevic. That guy is a beast. We've talked about him as Eastern Conference Player of the Week throughout the year. Every week, he's balling. Mobamba, I'm still waiting to see what Mobamba can really bring.
Totally forgot he was even on the team until you said his name.
I mean, you look at a guy. I mean, he's only started one game this season. He's only averaging 16 minutes, so he's just not getting out there on the court. But you just talk about the Magic as being one of those teams that year in and year out, you're always already kind of like, oh, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs. And this year they've played some really good teams really hard and actually come up with some big wins. I believe they just beat the Rockets in the past week. So, they play those good teams hard, and that's really what matters. And I talked about it. And I talk about it all the time. There's certain teams that you just have to beat. The teams like that. So, unfortunately, the Magic is one of those teams that when I feel like you play them, if you're going to be a good team, you got to beat the Magic. You can't lose to the Magic and be considered a good team. But, they're really playing everybody hard, and it's fun to watch and see what they can do. And you forget about Aaron Gordon. You forget about a guy that was in the dunk contest. You forget about a guy that, really highly touted out of college, and he's only averaging 15.6 points. So we've yet to see really his ceiling. I hope that he can get better.
He's also accepted a leadership role. I mean, he's the face of the franchise for that team for sure. And if I'm the Orlando Magic, now that I'm thinking about it, I need to get in the phone and call the Dallas Mavericks. Dennis Smith Jr., a real point guard, put DJ Augustine back to what he used to be, which is a backup point guard. And you get Dennis Smith Jr. out there, electric young player, butts in the seats, also a legit point guard, in my opinion. That might be somebody they want to reach out and call. So Orlando with the B. Philadelphia 76ers. I gave the 76ers a B as well. I mean, the usual suspects. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, J.J. Redick. We're not even going to talk about Markelle Fultz anymore until we see him on the court doing something. But I think when you add a new piece like a Jimmy Butler, a guy that demands attention, demands the ball, comes into a leadership role, takes a while for you to kind of get that person acclimated into your system. And that kind of goes into a small part of the reason why I gave the 76ers a B.
Yeah, 76ers are one of those teams that, man, trust in the process, man. And B, you and I have talked about it, off the record and stuff like that, and we always talk about, do we really think that Embiid was going to be this? Like, I figured, he was going to be like one of those players, he had an injury, coming into the draft.
Greg Oden 2.0 almost.
Exactly. That's honestly what I thought. I did not think that you'd be getting a guy that would be averaging 27 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks a game. A guy that is a dominant force in the Eastern Conference who, my man Joe over here still has, I believe, as his MVP. Right? Are you leaning?
He's in my top three, but he's not number one anymore.
Okay. No, I know. We talked about it, a few episodes in the past and everything. So, but yeah, man, this team is fun to watch. And maybe I want to get your thoughts on this discussion. I heard him saying, Embiid is definitely an all-star, right?
Yep, absolutely.
How about Simmons?
Ooh.
How about Butler?
I don't think so. No,
You don't think Butler?
No, I don't think Butler's an all-star. There's two people in this position that can get votes and get over him. No.
Butler's averaging